Yeah, talking about material opulence and the beauty of receiving with money opulent experiences, opulent things like Paul's new headset. It's so beautiful. Yeah, or new computers or travel or whatever it is. Like what money can stretch us into so much opulence, and yeah, it's about being grounded and in the gratitude and appreciation of what the opulence is opening space for, right? It's like that typical, yeah, greedy money thing. It's like
Yeah.
it is my entitlement or my privilege to have everything, and I'm gonna this so the money is rightfully mine. And
This is
it's
the
like
ego. Yeah.
it's the ego, right? But the like the higher perspective is truly like I am fully opulent and fully um complete and full inside.
Mhm.
I'm fully there inside, that I don't need
Yes.
anything outside of that. Um, and then from that space of just feeling so beautiful and opulent inside, it's natural that opulence will be reflected in my reality. And that could
Mm.
look like I'm personally endeavoring to create a lot of money in my life. Why? Not because I'm like some person that feels like they need money to be happy. I don't feel that
Right.
way. I don't feel that way at all. But I also feel that it's my service, my responsibility. It feels like spirit wants me to. I feel like led and guided to create large amounts of money. I see the potential to serve with that. I see how beautiful opulence is. I feel like part of my life is learning what um, really understanding and learning like the gratitude and beauty of opulence and how special it
Mhm.
is as an energy. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's that root though that keeps it all grounded is gratitude, like to constantly being that reminder of I'm I didn't need to be given any of these things. Like this, I don't inherently like it's not inherent that I should have the computer that sits in front of me or
Mm.
the beautiful Airbnb that's over my roof
Yeah.
right now,
It's
over
not an
my head.
entitlement thing.
It's not an entitlement thing, and
It's not
and it's
entitlement.
not even like this isn't, yeah, because this isn't necessary. This Airbnb that's over my head right now isn't necessary. This computer isn't necessary, but it allows me to create experiences that are opulent and beautiful, um, that support me in my path, and so I can be really grateful for that. I can be grateful for what the opulence gives me, knowing that it's not necessary.
Yeah, yeah. What I hear in that is kind of two different ways of relating to the money. One of them with more entitlement, one of them with more greed, and then another way of relating to the money that um, yeah, it just has a lot of gratitude for it, really sees it as a gift, and what the money helps to create really sees that as a gift as well. So I feel like um, we get into a trap when, or a pitfall, I should say, when we are looking for the money to fill a hole inside of ourselves. We think if we have um, all these things, all this stuff, somehow, like subconsciously, what's going on is we think that that's going to fill this hole of sadness, loneliness, despair
Mm.
inside of us. And it doesn't. I think life just doesn't work like that. That's not, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Um, and then we realize that, and then it's possible later to have a different experience and relationship with not just money, but everything in the material world, where you're not looking for it to fill you up like a monk who spends every day meditating, has nothing but lives off the alms of other people, you know, just begging for rice maybe on the streets or whatever, and only has one pair of robes, but can experience quite a lot of joy, with nothing, with
Mhm.
almost nothing at all.
Yeah.
And so that's a place to start and say, okay, yeah, we don't need all this stuff. Um, but we can create our lives with it and help create experiences for other people too, that bring us even more joy. And that becomes more motivation rather than the money or the material things in and of themselves. It's an aid to help us feel more joy.
Yeah, yeah. It's when we're not focused on filling a hole or a void with something outside of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because if there's a hole or a void inside of ourselves, it can only be filled with what's inside of ourselves. Yeah,
Mm,
it's like that's
mm.
where it is. You can't. I can't take this. Yeah, there's a better example. I can't take this phone, like shove it into my heart. You know
It
what
it
I
seems
mean?
so ridiculous when you say it like that.
When I
Yeah,
say it
but
like
that's
that.
what we try to do.
Yeah, exactly. That is what we try to do. We do the same with like, with partnerships, relationships, with food, with overeating, with all sorts of things. That there's an emptiness inside. There's a lack of inner satisfaction, a lack of inner fulfillment. And when that exists, we just like grab onto anything we can see. And most often, what we're not seeing is the things that actually fulfill us, the things that actually satisfy us, the things that actually fill the hole. Because it's so easy to see the food, it's so easy to see the video games or the movies or the phone or the
Yeah.
cars or the houses or the vacations. It's so
Mhm.
easy to see those. What's not easy to see is the desire to serve, the desire to be meditative and peaceful
Mm,
and in a place of silence in the mind,
yeah.
the desire to have authentic, intimate, meaningful relationships and connection that is deeper than what has been experienced to the present moment. That's what people like. It's not as easy to see those things, right? So it's
Yeah.
easy to grab for the things that we do see because it really feels like that hole needs to be filled, or I'm just gonna die because it feels so
Yeah.
miserable.
Absolutely. And at a certain point, I mean, I think that becomes so obvious when you're experiencing love with other people. You feel really connected to them, to all the characters in your life. You know, it becomes so obvious that that's our source of fulfillment, is being connected to other people and being in service to them and helping them have a more joyful experience of life. Like, wow, that makes us feel so good. And it's like from there it's like, oh, I don't even want anything except to, I just want to be doing more of that. I just want to be helping other people more because that feels so good inside of me. And then that becomes a realization of like, I didn't actually want what I thought I wanted. um, and then that changes, with that realization, which is really the soul realizing that. It's the soul, kind of waking up. um, then it has a different relationship with everything, and different
Yeah.
relationship with the whole material world.
Well, I love that. Yeah, there's a pivot point of the soul's awareness that
Yeah.
shifts into, like, as the soul as awareness shifts more and more out of illusion, the desires become less elusive as well.
Yes,
And I
yes.
think that's really fun to look at, like, oh yeah, desires are shifting and transforming as
That's right.
you shift and transform into higher awareness. So do your desires inherently. And that's why, like, now I feel like I have this incredibly pure desire to make quite a large amount of money,
Could
like
you explain that a little bit
I know
more?
I say that because I don't know how specific I want to be, like, but I feel like it's my destiny. I feel like I'm almost nervous to like got, to claim this, out loud, since I'm like still in the beginning journey of the path, and to claim it unended form is like, whoa. But I feel it's truly my destiny, my service, to make millions, if not more dollars, if not billions of dollars. Uh, truly, like, that's just, it feels like part of my purpose, part of my service, part of my dharma on this planet. I'm a Taurian ox, so my Chinese
Yeah.
astrology is the ox, and I'm a Taurus, so it's like money is in my astrology very deeply too. um, and 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 I've just always known that I was meant to make large amounts of money, and now it's very real for me, and I have a commitment to a path I'm taking to generate that. It's not woo woo. I have a very clear, I don't want to go into that, but I have a very clear image of how I'm creating that kind of money. um, and as that now I'm in that now that I'm in that commitment, it's like uh, it was just a commitment. I had no reason to it. It's like I wasn't trying to be like, I'm gonna make a bunch of money so I can buy all these things, you know, which I think is a lot of why people go to make a lot of money. Like, oh, I wish I had $1 million so I could buy this, this, and that. Of course,
Yeah.
I'd love to buy myself a home for me and my partner and our cat, and share it with my community. I'd love to buy land one day, share that with my community. But
Right. Right.
I really get that, especially being in the past 2 weeks, month or so, it's become clearer and clearer that source has a lot of plans. Like God has a lot of plans for the money that I make. And
Mm,
it's not my money. It's not. It's just like any other service. It is given to God. It is like this money is given to God, and God
mm-hmm.
spend this through me. You know, spend this
Mm-hmm.
through me. What do you desire? What is, because that's where our desires are shifting. Our desires shift as we come out of illusion to a
Yeah.
more and more aligned with God's desire.
Yeah.
And so as I'm making money, not for my own desires, but for God's desires, I just feel excited. I'm like, wow, holy crap. Like what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, what is God going to want me to
Absolutely.
spend this money on? You know, is it going to be like
Yes.
investing into the like new age restaurants or new age like communities
Mm-hmm.
and tribes? Is it just
Mm-hmm.
going to be funneling money into my own land, you know, and really building something out of nothing myself, you know? What is it going to look like? Is it going to look like, yeah, I have no idea. I just know it's like a path for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an intuition and something you know is just going to happen at a certain point in time, something you feel in your heart like this is meant for you. This is supposed to be part of your path. And
Yeah.
I feel that. And it's so interesting that we're talking about this, Jimmy, because all this week before making this video, I keep having this thought about like, what would I do if I like won the lottery?
Mm,
It's totally random. I don't know where it's coming from, but I keep feeling like, say if I won $1 million, I would want to give a lot of that away to like people that are close to me, because
yeah.
I would want to see them, like, what are they going to do with it? What, like, and just the joy that it would bring them to, like, oh, I have like, however much, 10 or 15,000, 20,000, how much I would give to each person, you know, and then they have that freedom to go pay something off or go create an experience for themselves. That would be so much more fulfilling to me than to spend it all on myself, you know.
Yeah.
I'd be so enthused to get like $1 million, and I'd probably have a thought there for a sec, like, you know what, I could just keep all this for me.
Uh,
you know but then I would be like, no, it would be so much better to give it away,
yeah.
and then to hear back, like, oh, here's what I did with it, and here's what I did with it, and here's what I did with it. Because I think we could say, spending it all on ourselves and kind of hoarding it, from the point of view of how much joy and happiness you could create with sharing it and giving it away, you're actually making yourself more miserable if you're holding on to it,
Yeah.
and you're hoarding it because you're going more into that, um, self-centeredness or ego consciousness. You're going more into to that, and there's less joy there.
There's
Hmm.
less joy there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. It's like,
Hmm.
it's just not as full or not as alive or something, right? Like it's resistant too, right? Because like everything
Hmm.
wants to be served with, whether it's, you know, time, money, love, whatever it is. Everything like wants to be served with as well. Like that's
Hmm.
part of it. Um, so I felt very fortunate to come into some like nice, a large amount of abundance before coming here to Hawaii. I'm in Hawaii right now, and the first
Hmm.
few weeks here, we had some friends we were staying with, and who were, you know, not in the same kind of abundance that we were, and I want to share really quick actually a story before I continue that. Me and my partner for a long time um, have been playing at this, I call it like the zero, right? Where we were constantly creating money and then coming back to zero, and then creating money and coming back to zero. And it's not like we were spending our money on ridiculous things, like basic necessities, like of just living. We always had a low overhead because we either lived with friends or lived in our camper, like on people's yards. Very low overhead, very easy lifestyle in that way. And we would just kind of always be making enough to get by, you know. And I think a lot of people live there. But for me, what I got to see by constantly living at zero, I really got to see how much God had my back, like how much there was always what I needed for years. You know what I mean? No steady source of income.
Mm,
Just besides here and there, only a few times was there semi-steady sources of income, and and it was just always enough. There was just always enough, and I felt like it really took going through that kind of experience to get that God is always have enough for me. There's just always enough, and to really receive that, and to know that all my needs are. Gemma, my partner, has this prayer. She says, "All my needs are always met abundantly, Amen." And I really love that. It's been something that's
mm,
like carried me through those times of just that constant reminder of all my needs are always met abundantly, Amen, because they are. It's like what we truly need inside and out as physical bodies, they're always met, and they're always met in abundance if we truly just let that in, let that consciousness flow. And so now to come full circle into a place where I feel like we're at a point where I don't see ourselves needing to do that game anymore, like needing to hit zero anymore. Like I feel like we've received enough of our blessings and lessons from that. And also because of the practical actions I'm taking in life and the trajectory of commitment that life has seemed to guide me to, I just don't see the necessity to have that kind of experience with money anymore. I'm actually on a different side of the coin where I feel like it's very exciting to feel for the first time in my life like I have plenty of money, and like I don't have to think as intently or clearly and focusedly on how I'm spending my money. There's more of a freedom to be able to spend where it feels inspired. Like if it feels inspired, it can be spent,
yeah,
and it's not outrageous by any means because we're truly following like inspiration. And even in that, watching our energy be like, yeah, no, that's not necessary, but this is inspired and it's okay. We don't have to like budget crunch right here. Like this can just move, and to see how fluent money can become and how flowy it can become while not
yeah.
being not also being like this crazy grab at a bunch of material crap. you know
I got it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. And did you have any more, or can
I think as a
can I
final
jump
note,
back
because
in?
I was
Yeah,
meant to go back around. So we got
please,
here, we
please.
got into Hawaii, and we're because of the flow that we were in, we were able to give to our friends who were at a similar place that we have been so many times, and now we got to be
Yeah,
on the other side of the coin and to take care of in simple ways, like providing food, like just being the food providers that we're buying the
yeah,
groceries, for our
yeah,
little community that we're living with in this time, and how special that is, to be able to give like that, and to be able to show up as that kind of provider, not just for like my partner but for my extended community as well. Oof, it just felt so
yeah,
amazing to flow with money and
yeah.
provide with money like that, to serve with it.
Isn't that great how that works?
Yeah, it
Uh,
is.
I love that. I'm thinking of a friend of mine used to be a roommate, and he was talking to me once about his philosophy on life and everything, and he was saying that from his point of view, money, if you have a good amount of money in the bank, you're financially stable, you're financially secure, it actually helps your spiritual life quite a lot. And I think that's generally true. I think that, with the with what we're talking about, if there's not a part of you that's kind of like grabby at it, and kind of clingy, kind of solidifying around it. If that isn't going on so much, then I do think it can really give us a spiritual boost. And at least the way it feels for me is like there's a part of me that will get anxious about not having enough money. Gee, I think that's a very universal human experience. And I notice that when I have the actual real, like I can try to talk myself out of that when I actually don't have money, right? I have like $100 in the bank, say, and I can talk to my mind and be like, well, it's fine because Source always uh, takes care of me. God always takes care of me, and that can sometimes work, but sometimes, at least for me, uh, that part of me can be, it can run on anxiety, because it can run to, what if something happens? And I think this is very common too. What if something happens to my car? What if something happens to my health? And you need that money to pay for that. And the mind will just entertain those kind of fears. I think that when we have when we have a surplus, we have something to fall back on, then it takes away the opportunity for the mind to even go there, to even go to those imaginary scenarios of anxiety. And when it can't even entertain them, then that energy that we would spend entertaining those imaginary scenarios of anxiety is then saved for us to use in the other areas of our life, and just to help us on our spiritual journey. So I think we, like, at least for me, but for a lot of other people too, I think we save a lot of energy by not worrying about finances. You know?
Yeah, I love that. Like saving a lot of thought energy of anxiety or stress, um, because in a lot of ways our financials are corresponded with our survival. That's really how it is. Money is
Yes.
our resource to survive. It's we don't pick fruit off trees, at least not most of us, and we don't hunt and gather, at least not most of us, right? Like most of us,
Yes.
we do that with our money at a grocery store. That's our gathering.
That's right. It's
Um,
self-preservation. Yeah.
yeah, and
Hmm.
so it can become stressful if there doesn't seem like there's enough there. Just like
Hmm.
I'm sure it was stressful for cavemen when it became winter. And
Hmm.
yeah, also what I love that, to like having the money frees up that mental thought space. And I was also seeing how it frees up a space to create, like, so for example, let's say, I know for you and I, both of us have done like driving services, like DoorDash or Uber. It's a little bit different if you have like a full time committed job. But for us, let's say like we're really in the flow with a lot of money. We have more of a freedom to choose when we work, or anyone who's self employed, right? That doesn't need to have a big level of consistency. The more flow there is of money, the the more opportunity there really is to choose how much energy we even get to give to creating money.
Hmm.
Right, like
Yeah.
we, rather than being like forced into like, okay, every week I'm putting 40 hours into creating money, you know.
Yeah.
When I have $1 million in the bank, well, I'm fine, my survival is totally happy. And then it's
Hmm.
just a question of like, do I want to generate more funds? Is that what I'm feeling inspired to do right now? If so, then I can
Hmm.
put in time and energy into doing that. And if not, then I can put in time and energy into whatever I want to put time and energy into, whether it's like music
Hmm.
or drawing or connection, community. So it creates a lot of freedom there too.
Yeah, it creates freedom because we also have to consider not just what's going to be best for our physical survival, because you could say that's at the level of physicality, but how am I going to spend my time to nourish my heart, to nourish my mind, to nourish my soul?
Yeah.
It's like if I'm not attending to those other parts of me, if I'm only focused on my survival, overall my life's going to suffer.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's not something money really gets you, right?
mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah, that kind of takes time and energy and generating. That's a different kind of resource, that we're generating, and that takes a different time.
Okay, so here's a question, Jimmy. Here's something that part of me is curious what you would have to say about is, um, I feel like the illusion that money does in some way or another equate to happiness is very persistent on Earth. Like I feel like in our collective mind, a lot of people still believe that and operate under that premise. That somehow if I could just get the things that I'm lacking, or the money that I'm lacking, then I would be happy. And people will say things to them like, well, actually no, money doesn't buy happiness. And they'll be like, well, yeah, that's true. Like they might even agree, you know what I'm saying?
But they're
But then
like, but it kind of
yeah,
does by happiness.
they'll say something that like invalidates it though.
Yeah.
And so what would you say to those people, or how do you think we really get unhooked from
I,
that illusion?
I would say that lack buys unhappiness. That lack is buying unhappiness in a weird way, right? Like rather than money buys happiness, lack buys unhappiness. That's
Mm,
what lack generates. And so if we feel lackful in our finances, it's common that we're feeling lackful inside our own person, inside of our own being, and that's definitely not a happy space. To feel less than, to feel not good enough, right? Like that's like the way we feel lackful in our finances are really just a manifestation of the limiting beliefs of who we are inside, as not good enough, as not complete, as not whole, as needing something to feel okay, as not okay, as not deserving, not worthy. It's like that's the inner experience, and that's manifested and reflected by the way that we experience lack and money. But really it's
mhm,
just rooting from a core of feeling lack in ourselves, and that is
mhm,
absolutely unhappy. It's an unhappy space to feel lack inside of ourselves. So I would say that, yeah, you could say money buys happiness, but what you're really saying is not experiencing lack is
mhm,
happiness.
mhm,
And to not experience lack takes a much deeper look at the self than just creating some money, because you can have all the money in the world and still it will make no difference in how lack filled you feel inside, until there's really an honest, sincere look at at where am I believing that I'm not enough.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And so, follow-up question: how would you help someone get unhooked then from lack, from the perception of lack, the feeling of lack, lack consciousness, without having them go make a bunch more money, or get a new job that makes them a bunch more money, or marry somebody that has a bunch of money, you
Yeah,
know? How do you help them get unhooked from that feeling of lack?
I feel like listening. Right? Like I can't think of
Mhm.
another answer, right? Like I can't think of, I wish I had something to like tell the people who listen to this. If you feel like lack, to be like, don't, you know what I mean? But it's so much deeper than that. Like I know from my own personal journey, I have felt not good enough for most of my life. And that is an experience of lack. And, and,
Mm,
and to just tell somebody that it's not a simple fix,
mhm,
not a simple
mhm.
fix. I still have remnants of feeling not good enough. I'm like really at a pivot point right now in my life where I'm moving beyond it, but
Yeah.
it's still ruminating. And so really honestly, what I would have to say is just devote yourself to self-realization. Devote yourself to, in every day, really receiving life as a teacher, and that every moment, every experience, every mirror you encounter, has lessons for you, and those lessons can be received with love. Don't beat up on yourself for what's happening, or what the lessons are teaching you. Don't feel like you have to force yourself to change or to not feel or experience lack. Let yourself experience the lack that you feel to its full extreme.
Mm,
Know that if you feel lack in money, you feel lack in other areas of your life, and to take a look at those, and to allow yourself to experience those to its fullest totality. um, yeah, experience your experience, and devote yourself to self-realization. That would be the
mm.
advice or medicine that I would have for anybody who experiences lack.
Yeah, devote yourself to the spiritual path and find your freedom and liberation there.
Hmm.
Um, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think a big part of that path, in my experience, is like noticing, to circle back to where we started from, maybe coming to the close here, but noticing all the things that you have to be grateful for,
Mm.
in your life already, all around you, everything within yourself, all the relationships that you have, you know, this noticing, um, that lack is an idea, you know, lack is an idea in your mind. It's not actually real. There's only the presence of things here. There's only the abundance of things here. There's nothing actually lacking, and
Sure.
so if we could notice, if we could just notice everything that's already here, and just feel the appreciation and the gratitude for that, we're already so much closer. What it seems so far away, that happiness that we wanted seems so far away, and then we just start to practice a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of appreciation for what's already here. It's like we close that gap so quickly.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, gratitude and appreciation is such a
Yeah.
an honoring and a respecting of what is here in its full
Yeah.
abundance. Like I want to say briefly that because I also feel like we're coming to a close, but briefly,
Yeah.
I yeah, and there's moments in my life where I feel so triggered when somebody, like when my partner, for example, will present to me like, have you been in gratitude today? Like, what is your, like, if I'm being like a little complainy, whiny, you know what I mean? Little, you know, my partner will be like, hey, have you been in gratitude today? And I'm like, yeah, and I don't want to be no gratitude right now, you know. But those are the
Yeah.
moments where it's like when I just surrender and I really let myself come into gratitude, it transforms so much inside of my being. And it
Yes.
sucks. Like sometimes it sucks to be in gratitude because it's
Hmm.
confronting like the part of me that wants to feel lacking or wants to
Right,
feel, yeah,
right. Wants to hang on to that. You know,
yeah.
I had this thought yesterday that it's like I started practicing gratitude with this self-mastery course that I took online, and it was the first practice in that course is practice gratitude. And much later I realized that it was the part of me that I was identified with that was practicing the gratitude was it's my ego, actually. So it's like my ego is practicing gratitude, and often that will happen. And it's like it's practicing gratitude in order to get somewhere. You know, it's like, oh, if I just feel grateful enough, then I'll feel happier, or I'll be closer to my spiritual goal, or whatever. But I noticed that sometimes that ego will be practicing gratitude. And what will happen is it will ignite this real, authentic gratitude that genuinely comes from the heart and the soul. And it's not contrived. It's not gratitude in order to get somewhere. It's like this yes to life. It's like, I am so grateful for everything in my life and all the people and just any experience at all. Thank you, God, for giving me anything to experience at all. Sometimes that just comes out, and it's interesting because it was like, you know, it's like my ego practicing gratitude inauthentically, like, oh yeah, I feel the gratitude and hope that's going to turn into something, I'll get closer to enlightenment or something, you know. And that's kind of an inauthentic way to do it, but sometimes it's funny how we do a spiritual practice inauthentically, and then
You fake it till you make it.
something that's right, something genuinely authentic arises.
Yeah, sometimes I find gratitude for me, like in the pivot points where I really need it. It is faking it till I make it. If I don't feel, I may not feel grateful, but I'll start listing off some shit. You know what I mean? Just there listing off what I genuinely know I'm grateful for, and then
Yeah.
next thing you know, like what you're talking about, you go on a rabbit hole, and next thing you know, you're sitting there and you're just experiencing experience, and you're like, I'm so grateful I get to experience. It's like, oh, everything is everything. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it can get,
And you
gratitude can really get so deep, you know.
it can get really deep, and
Yeah,
your experiences may vary, people.
yeah. Be warned,
Experiences may vary.
you might experience a lot of bliss. Wow, yeah, well, Paul, this has been amazing. I really want to, I just kind of almost recap. I love that we shared about money and what it's like to be on both sides of the coin in the experience of money. What the
See what
positive,
you did there, both sides of the coin.
because
Mm,
we're talking about good
it's
old
about
currency,
fashion money.
good old fashioned money. I also love this too. Okay, last thing I want to say. I find that there's a lot of people in the spiritual community who avoid using the word money. They like to call it prosperity or abundance or financial free, whatever. Like there's so many different terms for money. And I've found that in my own person, and I think also people I've shared with it, I think there's a lot of good use to those different vibrations and energy and words. But I also found that I was personally avoiding the word money, and that a lot of people around me avoided the word money because we didn't want to talk about money. But really, money is just a really beautiful energy, and I think we should start blasting up that sound vibration as a collective and really come back to how
Mm,
beautiful, beautiful money is, and
hmm.
not let it to be as tainted as it has been. So I'm glad we talked about money today. I'm glad we talked
Hmm.
about financial freedom and the positive effects it has on somebody on the spiritual path. I love that we talked about lack and the mirror that is our inner lack, and how much gratitude is a key to also feeling beyond our lacked self. And
Hmm.
gratitude is a key for really opening a clean, pure space for receiving our material opulence in the ways that we deserve as opulent divine beings. And so may we all make a lot of money. May we all make as much money as we're destined to, and have so much money that we feel not only free and secure in our own sustainability as people, but also so much money that we have to give and support the opulence and amazing experiences for our friends and family and all that we love, and have enough to share with everyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hallelujah.
I hope.
And that's all for now, folks. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.